However, Tang Mo's response was to quietly watch Fu Wenduo. The river G.O.D waved his sleeves and two figures suddenly appeared on the river of fantasy. Tang Mo and Fu Wenduo turned to watch the two figures. They saw that Tang Mo didn't hesitate to pull out the small parasol and attack first. He didn't give Fu Wenduo the opportunity to take the first shot. Fu Wenduo just gently moved sideways and avoided this blow. The pink parasol collided with the dark triangular weapon and the fierceness caused a big wave on the river of fantasy. Tang Mo and Fu Wenduo's abilities and props had been touched on by David and Pete just now. Pete saw that Tang Mo used a variety of special abilities and didn't know if it was an ability or prop. On the surface, the two foreigners mocked Tang Mo and Fu Wenduo. Earth survivors could kill their own teammates for the sake of profit. Once the fighting started, they stared intently. The second observation caused a guess to form in Pete's mind. He turned to look at his teammate. This person seemed to have a lot of abilities. Just like Tang Mo once encountered a female player who could copy the ability and use it for a short time, Pete and David had killed many people. One of them could collect other people's abilities. He could collect other people's abilities in a one-time ball and throw the ball when he wanted to use it. Each ball could only be used once. Pete guessed that Tang Mo's ability was similar. This ability looked very powerful because it could collect other people's abilities. However, the abilities collected weren't theirs. The more powerful the ability, the more restrictions there were and the harder the ability would be to collect. This was the fairness of the Black Tower. Therefore, Tang Mo definitely wouldn't have collected many abilities. Pete was more wary of Fu Wenduo's ability. From beginning to end, Fu Wenduo only showed a part of his power. He felt this man definitely hadn't done his best and there was still a card hidden. The two foreign players stared at the battle between Tang Mo and Fu Wenduo without blinking. Tang Mo didn't hold back as he used all his abilities, the small parasol, the big match and even the infinite non-probability pocket watch. He quickly turned the pointer of the pocket watch but unfortunately, the pocket watch wasn't triggered. Therefore, David and Pete didn't take this pocket watch seriously and thought it was a garbage prop. The ending was obvious. 2 minutes later, Fu Wenduo shot Tang Mo from behind. In terms of force alone, Tang Mo really wasn't Fu Wenduo's opponent. If Eve's apple hadn't greatly improved his physical fitness then Tang Mo might not even be able to hold on for 2 minutes. China's most powerful stowaway and arguably the world's most powerful stowaway, Fu Wenduo's strength was extremely terrifying. The river G.O.D smiled kindly. Child, did you see clearly how you can kill him? Fu Wenduo asked. I can kill him completely by doing this. The river G.O.D replied, yes, he will definitely be dead. Fu Wenduo nodded. Tang Mo stood to the side and didn't object to his companion's request, as if he didn't know that his partner wanted to kill him. However, once Fu Wenduo walked to his side, he took out the small parasol and the tip aimed at Fu Wenduo's neck. Fu Wenduo's eyes narrowed and he spoke casually, Tang Mo. Tang Mo sneered. Get lost. David and Pete laughed. Is this the friends.H.I+P between Earth survivors? Ha ha ha. It was David's turn. The blonde foreigner gestured to David. David smiled. Stupid Pete, do you think I'm so stupid that I didn't think of that? I know what you mean. Pete scoffed. I'm just afraid that you were damaged by the water and will come up with something that doesn't work. F.U.C.K. The two foreign players cursed at each other. David didn't argue with Pete and walked forward in a depressed manner. I really want to request that you kill my DAM.Ned companion Pete right now. The river G.O.D replied, sorry child, I can't kill players. David said, I know, that's why I'm not going to make that request. Before I make my request, old man, can I ask you, are you currently on the river of fantasy? The river G.O.D smiled. Of course child. You are currently standing on the river of fantasy. David raised his eyebrows. In other words, I am surrounded by thick fog and once I fall into the DAM.N water, the river will pull me to the bottom? Is this what it means? Yes child. David smiled. That's good. I've thought of my request. Then David suddenly stopped. He slowly turned to look at Tang Mo and Fu Wenduo. The brown-haired foreigner smiled coldly. Don't think I don't know that you've already guessed the way to clear this game. The Black Tower always likes to trick the players. It says that we just need to take the real banana wine and leave the river. Then we will clear the game. It doesn't say that the only way to leave the river is to take the golden banana bottle boat and use the silver banana wine as a compa.s.s. Tang Mo's body froze as he stared at David. David laughed. Earth survivors, us returnees have played more games than the people you have killed. You can't imagine what every returnee struggled through before the time leaderboard appeared. The time leaderboard has been in place for half a year. From beast to a human for half a year, we have put on that human skin again. But before that, the smile on the brown-haired foreigner's face disappeared. We haven't been human for a long time. We were all beasts who could only play games. Tang Mo and Fu Wenduo glanced at each other before Tang Mo said, I don't understand what you are saying. I don't know the way to clear this game. Pete spoke up. David, the Earth survivors on the Black Tower's 5th floor are only at this level. David replied, Pete, the thing they're best at is pretending to be stupid. Pete said coldly, that is just them. Many pigs like to pretend to be stupid in front of us, thinking they can trick us. They don't know that our favorite thing is to kill the idiots who think they are smart and take their rest time away. They just want to wait for you to make the request and follow us FF the river. David, make your request. If I'm not mistaken, that rabbit is actually your teammate and someone you know. She is quite clever. Since she arrived on the SHO.R.E, she won't foolishly jump down the river to save you. The brown-haired foreigner showed Tang Mo a malicious smile. He provocatively lowered his thumb before looking at the river G.O.D and saying in slightly accented Chinese, "Old man, I want you to tie a thread between me and the stinky rabbit. This thread can't be broken but it will break immediately as soon as I die. Can you do this?" The river G.O.D paused for a moment before nodding. "Yes." David laughed. He looked at Tang Mo and Fu Wenduo. "You didn't think about this? As you know, the gold and silver banana wine aren't important. Only stupid low-level players would be fooled by the Black Tower's words. If we want to leave the river then we just need a direction. Now as long as I die, the direction that will guide you will disappear immediately." Fu Wenduo and Tang Mo's expressions were constantly changing. David taunted them, "Come, kill me." He suddenly spoke to his teammate. "Dear Pete, you can't kill me now unless you want to fail the game." Pete made an expression of disdain. "I can kill you whenever I want." "Hey." Tang Mo's expression slowly sunk. These two foreigners might be the most powerful players that Tang Mo had met in a Black Tower game. Mu Huixi was very powerful but Tang Mo was never hostile to her. Bai Ruiao was also strong but they knew each other. Bai Ruiao understood Tang Mo and Tang Mo understood Bai Ruiao. He knew that Bai Ruiao was afraid of death. This was Bai Ruiao's weakness and why he fell in front of Tang Mo again and again. These two foreigners were different. They were clever enough to think of things that Tang Mo and Fu Wenduo could think of. They were also very strong. If Tang Mo was along then he might not necessarily be their opponent. At the same time, they are cold-blooded and ruthless. They could speak about killing their teammates casually but their tone was serious, without any hints of a joke. This was probably what the Black Tower wanted to develop. Suddenly, there was a gentle laugh and David and Pete turned their heads. David's thick eyebrows wrinkled. B.A.S.T.R.D, what are you laughing at? Tang Mo raised his head and smiled. What am I laughing at? You guessed right. The rabbit, the stowaway, and I, he pointed to Fu Wenduo. The three of us do know each other. This time you have seized my lifeline. If we kill you, we will lose our way and no one can leave the river of fantasy. David opened his mouth. You only have a dead end. That isn't necessarily the case. Just because I can't kill you doesn't mean you can kill me. David replied, then take a look. Tang Mo laughed again. David yelled angrily, what are you laughing at? Tang Mo didn't answer and changed the topic. I know that rabbit so I know that she, the little girl, no matter what, she is like this. What do you mean? Didn't you just ask the river G.O.D to tie a thread between you and her? David didn't understand. What's wrong with that? I don't know if this line is illusory or not. Once tied to her, I think it would be a colorful glow with pink lace edges. This type of thing being tied to you, it should look good. David, what the H.E.L.I was this? David thought about a long line with lace edges and he shuddered. He dismissed Tang Mo's words as the Earth survivor's brain breaking due to extreme anger. The next moment, the river G.O.D confirmed that he was going to make the thread and Pete sighed. A colorful line with lace edges, it really suits you David. David shouted, shut up. The next second, a colorful light tied around David's wrist. It forcibly tied 3 layers around his arm full of body hair. The pink lace edges contrasted with the black body hair and looked disgusting. Pete burst out laughing and David roared at the river G.O.D, what are you doing? The river G.O.D smiled. Child, I thought you liked this? David, your mother liked it. He was angry enough to kill all these B.A.S.T.R.ds and throw them into the river to feed the crocodiles if there were crocodiles inside. The 4 requests were completed and the river G.O.D waved his sleeves. The 3 B.A.L.S of light appeared in front of the group. He didn't seem to understand David's rant and smiled. It is almost time for the river of fantasies tide. Child, choose the wine you want. Pick them up and tell me what type of wine you think you are choosing. 3 B.A.L.S of light floated on the surface of the river. Tang Mo reached out and grabbed the golden banana bottle. Fu Wenduo grabbed the silver. The black bottle remained and Pete grabbed it. David was still struggling with the colorful line of lace around his wrist. He wanted to throw it away or at least cover it up. The river G.O.D spoke, I must remind you that once you say the true appearance of the bottle in your hand, it will become what you say. If you are right, it will remain the same. If you are wrong, it will immediately break and you won't get anything. Now, let's start. He looked at Tang Mo child, what do you think is in your hand? Tang Mo declared, it is the real banana wine. He finished speaking and there was a crisp glah.s breaking sound. Tang Mo immediately released the bottle in his hand and saw the golden banana wine turned into countless pieces that fell into the pink river. The river G.O.D said sadly, it is a pity child. You're wrong. He looked at Fu Wenduo. Child, what do you think is in your hands? Fu Wenduo stated, the banana wine. The group was ready to see Fu Wenduo's bottle breaking but there was just a white light. Then the silver pattern gradually disappeared from the bottle. A black banana wine bottle appeared in Fu Wenduo's hands. Pete whistled. Wow, your luck is good. The second person found the real banana wine. Then I'll guess. I have the real banana wine. Tang Mo and Fu Wenduo turned to look at Pete. They saw Pete smiling and throwing the pieces of bottle into the river of fantasy as he looked at them with raised eyebrows. The four people stared at each other before Tang Mo spoke. You know that this bottle of wine definitely isn't the real banana wine, but you deliberately broke it. You are worried that if you guess correctly, this bottle of wine will turn into a compa.s.s. If it is the compa.s.s, then we don't need the guiding line and can kill your partner. However, you can say that this bottle of wine is a golden banana wine and turn it into the big S.H.I plus P. Pete didn't do this and deliberately broke the bottle of wine. Pete sneered. Why should I do whatever you say? I am willing to break it. Ha ha ha. The result was that the real banana wine was in Fu Wenduo's hands while they knew the right way to leave the river. Without the golden bottle, they couldn't take the big boat through the fog. However, Pete and David could use the magic S.H.I plus Eld as a boat, and Fu Wenduo and Tang Mo could walk using their boats. In fact, the current situation was the best for the four people. Tang Mo and Fu Wenduo had the wine while David and Pete controlled the direction. The threat would lead to the best cooperation. They formed a perfect shackle. No one wanted to kill each other first. They were worried about the other side's advantage. The river G.O.D saw that 3 bottles of wine had been selected by players and touched his long white beard. My mission is over. Children, leave the river of fantasy. This isn't a place where you should be. Waves came from behind the river G.O.D and covered his body. The waves became smaller, the river G.O.D faded away and the river once again became calm. Pete put his hands in his pocket and smiled at Fu Wenduo. There are no rewards for 4 people clearing the game. If 3 people clear the game, it might be the mentally handicapped mode, but it is still a reward. You have the important banana wine in your hand. David can't die either. If he dies, then no one can leave here. Right, I will tell you in advance, David won't kill me. Once I die, David will follow. David sneered. Who said that? He said so, but David didn't refute it. He agreed to Pete's words. Tang Mo's heart became cold. This was inciting Fu Wenduo to kill him. Tang Mo's hand was on the small parasol, always aware of the enemies around him. At this moment, he was the only one in danger on the river. David and Pete tried to kill him and Fu Wenduo just asked how to kill him. David and Fu Wenduo couldn't die. Pete had David's protection and no one could kill him. Thus, Tang Mo was the only one left. Of course, the strangers were more dangerous than a teammate. Tang Mo stared at Pete and David, seemingly fearing that they would act first. Then a faint metal sound was heard behind Tang Mo. Tang Mo instantly turned his head and saw Fu Wenduo turning his right hand into a dark weapon. Then he rushed straight to Tang Mo. David and Pete also wanted to join in. They controlled the S.H.I plus Eld and rushed at Tang Mo. The black weapon fiercely stabbed at Tang Mo's chest. Tang Mo immediately opened his small parasol to block, but David and Pete were already behind Tang Mo. They raised their weapons and aimed them towards Tang Mo. The next moment, they saw the small parasol snap shut and Tang Mo's hands joined together to form a platform. Fu Wenduo stepped on Tang Mo's hands, turned in the air and flew at Pete's chest, kicking him. At the same time, the black weapon aimed straight for David's heart. David's eyes widened with horror and he hurriedly moved. The sharp weapon still pierced his shoulder and blood dyed his clothes. David raised his head angrily. Are you crazy? You actually dare to kill me? Don't you want to PAS.S the game? Tang Mo slowly emerged from behind Fu Wenduo. He placed his hand on Fu Wenduo's arm. Fu Wenduo glanced at him. Then he smiled and temporarily put away the black weapon. Tang Mo explained with a smile, if Mu Huixi was here, she would know that Fu Wenduo would never kill his teammates. You only know that he is a stowaway. He survived because he killed someone and entered the game. You don't know that he is Fu Wenduo, the youngest major in China and captain of the Xiaolong team. He is a soldier and will never aim his weapon at his teammates. I'm his teammate. His voice stopped for a moment and there was a sentence in Tang Mo's heart that he didn't say. I'm still his lover. Added a KO5 for the people asking for an alternative to Patreon. You can also join my Discord channel to chat with fellow readers about the novels.